Okay, good morning and welcome to Iyun with Benzion. Today's daf is Yevamos, daf Sadi Dalid, Yevamos 94. Um, the Gemara has a shaila at the beginning of this Gemara on Sadi Dalam and Aleph, starting already from Sadi Gilmal and Beis, where we're talking about, we know from the Mishnah that Eid Echad is Neman, Beid is Isha, meaning to allow a woman to remarry. We don't know if the woman's husband died. So it's very clear from the Mishnah on Pei Zayin and Beis that one Eid is Neman. Now the Gemara is a shaila. That's only to matir the woman to marry, to say her husband's dead. But what about to testify about the Yavam, right? To testify that the Yavam is dead, right? For some reason we know two Eidim said the husband died. But now her husband died without children, so now she's stuck to marry the Yavam. Can we rely on the Eid Echad to say the Yavam is dead also? Or not? So the Gemara really gives no answer, but it is paskind, the Rambam paskins, and I believe the Shulchan Aruch paskins, like Rava, towards the middle bottom of Sadi Dalam and Aleph. Rava Amar Eid Echad Neman B'Yavama Mikal V'Chomer. This is Kari Sitar to this Lav Lo Kol Shekin. He says Eid Echad is Neman B'Yavama. If an Eid Echad is Neman when it comes to kares, when it comes to allowing a woman to remarry and possibly committing adultery, and this are kares. So certainly the Neman by Yevama to marry, to say the Yavam's dead, so she can marry Lashuk, which is only Yevama Lashuk is only Isser Lav, it's not an Isser Kares. So Kal V'Chomer, and the Gemara defends it. The Gemara says, because we see from Mishnayos later on that the woman herself, even though she is Neman to testify that her husband died, she's not Nemenes to testify that the Yavam died. So, and this is in fact brought out in halacha. So how could this be? What's the distinction over here? Why is it that the woman herself is not Neman, but the Eid Echad is Neman? I would like to suggest a fundamental difference, which is not really discussed so much. We know that for Eid is Isha, one Eid is Neman. And the Gemara says earlier on that not just Eid Echad is Neman, but also Eid is Isha. A woman herself is Neman. She's normally Pasal Eid as a woman. She's considered an Eid for this. Even a shifcha, an eved, or not neman for edus are kosher. Eid mipi eid is kosher. When you give hearsay, right? Not that you actually saw it, but someone told you they saw it. That's also good. And shifcha b'shifcha, you have eid, you have both. The combination of eid mipi eid and shifcha b'shifcha, all these are neman, even though they're only pasal edus. Is there any difference between eid echad kosher, a regular man who saw that the husband died, and Eidas Isha, where a woman testifies, or Eid Mipi, normally they're pasal in other places, here they're kosher? I would like to suggest, yes, there is a fundamental difference over here, and it's borne out in this Gemara in Sadi Gilmal and Beis, where we're talking about the reason Eid Echad should be Neman. Is the reason Mishum Milsa Davud Avida Le'Gluye? The reason Chazal believe the Eid Echad is because it's going to be known. It's going to be known. It's going to be found out. When you give this testimony, the husband died, we're going to find out pretty soon, or eventually, if the husband returns from overseas. So it's going to be found out, so he's not going to want to lie. And then there's a different svara of Daiko Minsa. The woman herself, right, she's not going to want to get remarried based on the testimony of an Eid Echad unless she investigates the matter. She's going to investigate thoroughly to make sure that her husband died, to corroborate the Eid. Why would she want to do that? Because if she marries and commits adultery, she's going to have mamzerim for a second husband. The husband comes back. So there's two svaras going on over here, and I believe these two svaras really align with these two types of Eidos, meaning Eid Echad is not Neman like Shtei Eidim. Shtei Eidim, like if you listen to some of my other shurim, Shtei Eidim creates a birur, it creates a clarification, meaning it's a proof beyond a reasonable doubt, meaning it's not just a doubt, and it's not just a reasonable doubt, it's a proof beyond the reasonable doubt. It's not a yediyah, it's not common knowledge, but it is a proof. Shtei Eidim is Kameya, maybe not like 101. We'll talk about that at a different time. Trei Kameya is Trei Kameya 101. I don't know. But Trei Kameya, it's a very strong proof. And its Eidos is believed even to be Motzi Mamon, right? To go against the Chazaka. It creates a Vadai. Torah's Bira, it clarifies something with Torah's Vadai. An Eid Echad is not so believe because he's only one person. When another person corroborates another person's aid, that's pretty strong proof. But when one aid says something, even if he's a legitimate aid, he's a kosher, he's a Haredi guy, he's not going to lie. But at the same time, he's only one guy. There's no corroboration of what he's saying. So he creates, I would say, a reasonable doubt, but not beyond the reasonable doubt. He creates a reasonable doubt. Like we've talked about, there's a suffix, and then there's two types of way of treating a suffix, hanhaga, minog. We have no idea what to do, but based on the status quo, we go with the status quo. And then there's something which creates a chazaka, which creates, maybe not a chazaka, creates a reasonable doubt. It creates, for example, a shvua. Eid echad is mechayev someone a shvua. It creates a reasonable doubt not to be motzi mamon. Eid echad can't, if someone has possession of something, can't take money out. He says it belongs to somebody else. He can't take the money out of his hands, but he could cause the person to take a shvua because he creates a reasonable, sufficient doubt in order to warrant a shvua. If you're an isha, when he's not eligible to be an eid echad, because women have tendencies to not get the facts straight. Nashim daitan kalos, avodim, shvachim, they're chashal b'shakir. They have less credibility, so therefore they don't even create a reasonable doubt in order to mechayev a shvua. So here we're dealing with two cases in the Mishnah. I think it's borne out on Pei Zayin Amud Beis, the first Mishnah. Most explanations assume that when she gets married, al pi beis din, that's talking about where it's eid echad, any type of eid echad, an eid kasher or an isha or an evet, and then there's shalal pi beis din shtei eidim. But I've proven from other Gemara that shtei eidim is a birur, and there's no reason to bring a korban. It wouldn't fit the end of the Mishnah to say she brings a korban if she relies on two eidim. I have a little evet, the Gemara says. So I would like to say that the two cases referred to in the Mishnah by Zayin and Beis, it says Amrullah, the first case. Amrullah is plural, right? We know it's not Shnei Eidim. It's talking about multiple women, or multiple shvachos, which are the apostle, and they're all apostle, like 100, they're all apostle, they're apostle Eidim. And when they come, and Eidas Isha, apostle Eid comes, the only way she get remarried, that's the chiddush of the Mishnah, to get remarried, is Beis offers a psak. You have to go to Beis, and Beis says, okay, we have one Eidas Isha. Normally, she has no credibility in the whole Torah. But over here, Mishum Iguna, right, because she's an Aguna, and she's going to be left without a husband, so therefore they're a Machmir. How do they set it up? They said, we'll give you a heter to remarry, but I'm telling you, if the husband comes back, we're going to allow chumras. Teitzi mizeh, all the chumras, no ksuva, no mazonos, all these things, all these knasos, right? So they're going to give a heter. Now, psak Beis Din is better than what I mentioned, talking about other time, a heter of a single rabbi who's machriya. He's just give reasonable doubt. He's like an eid echad. But a Beis Din, 3 dayanim, there's corroboration. That's a birur. So she relies on the birur, and she's able to get the reason Chazal allowed Beis Din to rely on this Eidas Isha is because of the Iguna, and because Daiko Minsava, right? She's going to investigate it thoroughly. So that gives her a little credibility, not a credibility of an Eid Echad, but it gives a little credibility in order, and once you have a little credibility, Daiko Minsava, so therefore, because of Iguna, and because Chumra Shach Martalav Sofa, so therefore, it's a lot of penalties, and then will be makel to rely on Daiko Minsava. Daiko Minsava is not a good svara. It's not a really strong svara. You see that from the Gemara on Sadi Gimel and Sadi Dalet, that Daiko Minsava, she can change her Eidas, she won't investigate thoroughly, maybe she loves the Yavam, she hates the Yavam. So that's fundamentally what we're dealing with. An Eid Echad kosher creates a reasonable doubt, and therefore, by Eid Echad, you create a reasonable doubt. And once you have Eid Echad, who is a credible Eid, because of the Svara, Milsada Avudila Gluye, right, it's going to end up, we're going to find the truth anyway, so that elevates it from just a reasonable doubt to a birur, to beyond the reasonable doubt. Once you're starting with something credible, so therefore the umdana, right, an umdana which is proof based on the situation, changes that from a reasonable doubt to beyond the reasonable doubt to clarification, 100%. So therefore, we can rely on the Eid Echad, both for an Isha and both for a Yavam, and that's why the Mishnah says on Pei Zayin and Beis that if she gets Nizal Pi Beis Din, so she's Turam in a Korban. She's Turam in a Korban because Beis Din, they stretched it a little bit, but they gave her a psak and they were a birur. In Eid Echad, though, she have to bring a korban because Eid Echad just creates a reasonable doubt, and therefore should be a shogeg, and therefore she have to bring a korban. Based on the Surah Milsas Dalavida like Gluye, it actually comes out, we're not really sure. It would technically be maybe she should be potter from a korban because it would elevate it to the status of birur, but that's not 100% clear. The Mishnah has one opinion, the Gemara brings a dissenting opinion. Maybe she should be potter from a korban even when she gets married. I'll be a kosher Eid Echad, because Milsa Devudia Gluye elevates that to a beer also, and she is an ones, not a shkaga. And that's the difference, the halacha between the Eid Echad and the Isha. The Eid Echad, we say Kal V'chomer. If the Eid Echad is believed for something chomer like Kare, certainly is believed in Yisrael Lav, because that credibility and Milsa Devudia Gluye elevates it to a beer. And Isha, though, is not is not really believed. She has no credibility. It's only based in because of Iguna and the circumstances, and Daiko Mitzvah is a little credibility, and we make chumras at the end. So therefore, they gave the psak based, they issued the psak based in. They didn't feel the necessity to issue that psak based in a case of Yevama, where it's only a Yevama Lashuk, where there's not Daiko Mitzvah, where there's maybe a lacking of Daiko Mitzvah because she maybe hates the Yavam. So once you lack the Daiko Mitzvah, they weren't willing to go out on a branch and give this psak basin. So there's no psak basin, there's no credibility. Of course, it's not going to be believed. So therefore, fundamentally, there's a big difference between Eida Echad Kasher and this Isha over here in our Mishnah and this whole parak. So I hope you enjoyed today's shir. See you in Mishnah Yomi. I also give a shir Mishnah Yomi. You're not going to want to miss it.